Hello and welcome, my friends. Welcome back to the Message to Mission Summit. I am your host, Christoph J. Wyman, America's favorite speaker empowerment coach. And today I am so excited and so grateful to have my good friend, Courtney Kaplan, as my guest, as our guest. And this is gonna be a ride. I'm gonna tell you right now. Courtney she is a healthcare worker. She is a proud mother of five. She is an advocate and a volunteer for many nonprofits around our local Las Vegas community, and especially veterans nonprofits. And she is the #1 best-selling author of her brand new book that just launched last week called Transplant Hope. Courtney, welcome. I'm so
Thank
excited
you.
to have you here. Take one or 2 minutes, please, and just tell us, a little bit of, let's step back, where you grew up, where you went to high school, just very briefly what the early days were for you.
Sure. Um, I grew up in Tucson until I was about four. My parents had divorced, and so I had two homes and four parents. And that I was able to plant most of my roots, I would say, was in Las Vegas.
Hmm.
That is where I raised my family and started my career. I started out actually volunteering with my mother. She worked at an assisted living back when
Oh,
I was
wow.
a young child. So I would go to
You've
work
been
with
in
her
healthcare
and
since you were a
oh
child.
my gosh, I had no choice. Oh my gosh, I used to have the best time hanging out with grandmas and grandpas and having
Oh,
their smile. And I don't know, just it was just the best. And it just planted that desire to have that exchange of kindness and love that you get being a caregiver and being somebody who it's a calling, it's a passion.
yeah.
So I raised my family, built my career in Las Vegas, and I had taken on several roles in healthcare, uh, all kinds of stuff, equipment, home health, just a variety of things, and quite enjoyed and had dedicated myself to that art of
Well,
taking care of people, and that's it.
I've known you for a number of years, and you
Yes.
absolutely are the epitome of, that empathetic heart and caring for others, uh,
Yeah.
professionally and in your personal life. It's not something that you turn
No.
on or off. This is who Courtney
No,
is
it's
that I
just
know.
me.
And we reconnected recently, about 2 years ago,
We
when
did.
you joined us at Ultimate Speaker Competition. And since then, we've done so many different things together. And you have
Yeah.
been on this journey of sharing a message, an inspiring, empowering message, which is also what led to your book. So show us the book, Transplant Hope. It just launched. It's what's the subtitle?
This is inspiring stories of donor heroes and gifted lives.
Donor heroes and gifted lives, and we're talking about organ donation. So you have an experience that is the impetus and the genesis for this book about your son
Yes.
Michael. You received a call almost 4 years ago. Tell us briefly, what happened. What was that?
It was a Friday like any other. A phone rang. It was the high school. I had three kids going to the same high school. I didn't think anything of it. I usually don't answer them because they're a recording, but this time I did. And the principal had some horrifying news for me. And at that moment, so much happens in your body and your mind, shock and fear and confusion, and just the whole gamut just runs through your body.
Hmm.
And I knew my life would change. It was change, but I did not know to what extent. I didn't know what the impact this moment would have on not only myself and my family, but if I may say, the world. I mean, it is an extremely impactful, painful, worst nightmare turned into transformation and beauty, and transplant hope has come from that deepest, darkest, painful place, not only for myself, but the 10 other authors who were brave and courageous enough to share their stories as well, in transplant hope, and I am beyond delighted to share those vulnerable moments with
Yeah.
the world.
So the call that you got was that your third child, your son Michael, was in a vehicle accident. He was on his motorcycle and it was an accident, right? There was no
Absolute
drugs or
accident.
alcohol involved. It was an accident. And so he was taken to our local university hospital, one of the best hospitals around, UMC.
Yes, yes,
And what transpired over the coming, I guess, couple days?
sure. Very shortly after the accident, and I arrived at the hospital, it was about 2 hours it took before we, as a family, really was given the news that Michael would not survive his injuries. It was
Mm,
a tragic, traumatic brain injury. Every other part of his body was in pristine condition. There were no broken bones or anything. Well, in facially,
sure,
yes, but
sure.
not anywhere else. And organs were properly, it was a traumatic brain injury, and just he would not be able to survive that. Um, and being that information was exchanged with us quite early on, um, in asking for identification and insurance cards and all of that stuff that you just normally have to do.
Yeah.
I remember very specifically sharing with the physician, and the admissions department that Michael is an organ donor, and we will be respecting his wishes.
His
And
wishes and the actually your chapter in this anthology, which is how the book opens, is
yes,
titled A Hero's Wish, which is what you're saying,
absolutely.
respecting and honoring Michael's wish because he
Yes,
checked the box to be an organ donor when he filled out the application for his motorcycle license. You have
absolutely.
been on this journey for now almost 4 years, and you've said that in our time together, and when I've seen you on our stages and other people's stages,
Yes,
you say,
yes,
I've heard you say that on that day when Michael died, when Michael passed, that something in you died, but then something else was rebirthed. Can you share with us about that, about this
absolutely,
calling?
absolutely. Sitting sitting in that moment with the most horrific, horrible news that any parent could possibly imagine. You struggle to find a meaning or a purpose um, or a mission, something to come
Mm,
out of this thing that you were handed.
something good, right?
And I quickly realized, after speaking with Nevada Donor Network and the agency that comes in to your hospital bedside and kind of walks you through the procedure, quickly learning that in this darkest nightmare tragedy, that Michael, being so young and so healthy, would be able to enhance and save the lives of at least 6 individuals who were
Wow.
waiting on the transplant list.
Wow.
And not only that, we also learned that his blood type, which is B negative, was truly one of the rarest in organ donation. So these are individuals that are very, very unwell and have been on the list for a very long time. And so many of them succumb to their medical challenges before receiving an organ. So here I am sitting next to Michael in his hospital bed, lifeless and being life sustaining with ventilators and medication,
Yeah.
and realizing that my life, Michael's life, we both had an end date, which I consider May 17th, 2019 was our end date. I truly did die with him, as you mentioned. It is something that I speak on, and it is very, very true. With the fact that he is an organ donor hero, his story and mine too has a semicolon, because it really began again just in a different way. And realizing that Michael will and is living on in the lives of, like I said, six
At least,
individuals have a
yeah.
second chance at least, and
It,
not to mention tissue and ocular and just enhancing others' lives. It what could be more proud for a parent, for a mother, than to know that her son, her child has such an impact on the lives of others. Again, not taking away from the fact that I have lost a child. I am not minimizing that whatsoever. It is a hand that I was dealt, but I got to choose how I wanted to proceed with my life, and living through Michael and sharing the love that he had for himself and for others is a mission that I take on and proudly.
and you use a phrase that I think describes it so well, that grief and gratitude can live in the same place. And of course, on our short interview, there's so much, and we can only touch
Yes,
on a part of it.
sure.
But the book itself, Transplant Hope, Inspiring Lives of Donor Heroes and Gifted Lives. There's 11 stories in there.
Yes,
One of the stories is how you got to meet, and you are now very close with the gentleman
very,
who received Michael's double lungs. Tell us just very briefly
absolutely.
about that, because um, Transplant Hope, I mean, that really describes what your journey has
Really,
been about. Tell us about, meeting, connecting with Harold and his family, and what that has been like now.
absolutely. Um, I had an opportunity, as donors and recipients do, if they so choose, to write a letter introducing themselves to, again, the recipient or the donors. I had done that about 4 months after Michael's passing, and it usually does take about a year if you are ever going to get contacted. And again, this is a very rare and special moment that isn't available to all families. It just doesn't always work out that way. And it on August 4th, 2020, I will never forget it. It is a moment in my life that will remain with me forever and ever. I did receive a message on Facebook from a family claiming to be a part of Michael's extended family now, that
Wow.
this gentleman was Michael's double lung recipient, and just offering the most beautiful sentiments of recognizing that, Harold is alive, because my son's life, you know no longer. And what do you say, how do you thank you, just doesn't seem enough. And just gratitude for our part in Harold's recovery, and also acknowledging, my loss. So we did contact Harold and speak with him over the phone that day, and we made arrangements for October 17th of 2020, which happened to be Michael's 20th birthday. Um,
Wow.
we we spent that birthday with Harold, celebrating Michael's life and Harold's life, and what his second chance at life has meant for him and his family, and inviting us to celebrate that with him and his family, to grieve with mine. It was a magical, amazing miracle moment Eminem and Eminem. It was just amazing, amazing,
Amazing, miracle,
amazing.
magical.
Oh
And
my gosh.
Harold has a second lease on life, and we had the chance to meet him when we filmed the Speak Up season 5 in Dallas, which is where Harold lives, around that area, him and his wife
Yes,
and his
yes,
family. He was able to see his son get married, I believe, and his
yes.
grandchildren. And I know that Harold is like he is maybe your number one fan. I don't know if who's a bigger fan, me and Michelle of Courtney Kaplan, or Harold and his wife. But he has been
Oh,
just so supportive of you, and so his story is in the book too. It's called A Perfect Match,
yes,
Chapter 2.
yes.
And going back to the book again, there's 11 chapters, which may seem kind of few in a collaboration book or an anthology, which typically might have 20 or 30. But the stories are from so many perspectives. There's a story of a mother who, soon after childbirth, her infant son was diagnosed with kidney failure and needed a
Yes.
transplant, a kidney transplant. There's a story of a living donor who said yes, not for like yes today while still being alive. There's so many amazing stories, and we have been reading the reviews on Amazon. Like
Ah,
this book, Courtney, is not only bringing hope and healing and comfort, but it's really actually saving lives too.
yes.
Um, and even before your book came out, you have participated. You've been in a couple of other books, and you've been on a journey as a speaker. So this summit is focused on speakers and message to mission, which I knew that you needed to be on here because I feel like that phrase, message to mission, is epitomized by Courtney. So tell us a little bit about what your experience has been as I would say a new speaker, right? But it's been now 2 years. Just, the opportunities, what the journey has been like for you.
Sure. There's so many facets to this story, and depending on your audience and who needs to hear the message, whether it's healthcare professionals, surgeons, hospital administrators, other families that could be grieving a loss of some kind. Um, oh my gosh, other authors, other people that are just struggling in general. I mean, there's so many parts of this story that really touch on taking that worst nightmare, that pain, that divorce, that loss of a job. It really doesn't have to be due to the loss of a loved one.
Yeah.
It really is about having that moment of despair and I can't do this. Changing that into your most powerful response. That is where the transformation come from I can't to I'm doing it, I did it, and watch me go. Like that is what the chapters in this book, even though no story is the same, they all have a time of a darkness, of a sadness, of a loneliness, and finding how to respond and take your power back and make it into something. That is the journey that I'm on. And people need that story, people need that hope these days, people need
Mm,
to be inspired,
yeah.
and reminding them that it is worth it and you are valuable, and all of those, the messages that we just need to build each other up. That's where that opportunity, to when you have a message, it's your responsibility to speak it and share it. That's where becoming a speaker is not only so powerful for your audience, but every single time I talk about this, something heals, something
Mm,
shifts, something
wow.
something encourages, and that vulnerability, like you start to learn how to love that part about you and share that part about you. I've taken to many stages and had opportunities to speak to a variety of audiences. And again, writing my story in several different publications and news articles and media. It, it really is just about sharing that message with the audience.
Let's talk about that because you've been in
Sure.
the Lemonade series with Michelle
Yes.
Faust, and then of course you were in. I'm very proud of you being in Dare to Care with Michelle, my wife. Uh,
Yes.
People that have gone through, very difficult, traumatic experience, it's not the normal reaction of, oh, hey, I want to go tell people about it, or I want
Right.
to. But what was your experience in sitting down to start writing, whether it was a chapter in one of those books or the news articles, or what was that like for you, and what compelled you to say yes when you were approached?
Sure. There is a huge difference in processing from written word to spoken word to listening. I mean, we've got all those senses for a reason. And I will say, of all of the avenues that we can express ourselves, for me, pen to paper is extremely cathartic and
Mm,
healing because you are having to sit in that experience and you are describing for your reader not only this happened and then this happened and this happened, like you have an outline of a story you're building, but you have to fill in those details with your senses, and you're taking your reader into the hospital room with you or into your car when the call came in. You have to sit back with the 4 years back Courtney before she died, and you have to sit with her and watch her and listen to her and start to write what was happening to her for your reader, and pulling those details out of this story and this experience. It leads you down this like awareness and availability of your feelings.
hmm
It is extremely healing, and I will admit, not an avid reader myself. I get very sleepy, and it's just not my favorite thing to do. So I never ever would have considered myself an author or a writer.
But you are now.
I
And
was
you have
wrong.
been. You are multiple times.
Oh
And it's
man.
very interesting how you talk about that. That is true because when you're writing, it's just you. You don't have an audience yet because it has not been put out there. And very different than when we're standing on a stage. With when you're standing on a stage, unless you're on a television show or something that's pre-recorded, if you're on a stage, you're getting immediate feedback. You're getting immediate connection with the audience. And so it's more outward. Whereas, like you just described, that the writing process, you said it's cathartic, but there's a process before you get to the catharsis, before you get to the healing.
Yes.
It's do I want to engage this thought? Do I want to go to that memory? And I just applaud you. First of all, you are a great writer,
Thank
as
you.
well as being a great speaker. Uh,
Thank you.
the book just flows so well. I just want to congratulate you and all of the other 10 authors
Oh
that have
yes.
contributed their stories and that were willing to be vulnerable because it's not an easy thing to do. And let's talk a little bit more about the speaking journey. I would like to hear your thoughts on, you know, being getting coaching. When you started out, I believe my perception 2 years ago, one of your first times on stage was very different than now today after you've
Definitely.
done it so many times. Um,
Definitely.
how important is coaching to you? And what would you
Sure.
say to speakers who might just be starting out? Like they have, God forbid if they did have some kind of a traumatic experience, but whatever they've
Right.
gone through, but they feel like there's a message to share. Where do I go? What do I do? Where do I begin? Or
Sure.
just some
Sure.
advice to aspiring speakers.
Sure. I would have to say that I arrived and in my new life about 2 years in, where you and I met, and I had told my story a few times prior to the ultimate speaker competition, and it was more kind of walking through the journey with the audience. It, this happened and that happened, sure, but it, I had this experience and this message of hope, and I needed some guidance on how to take this ball, this snowball that is now my life, this big avalanche. It was just whoosh, here's my story. Like this whole just pile just came down, and the audience was like shocked. Like I think I shocked them. I think they yeah, I think man. But I had to start somewhere. So having a coach and a mentor that you have become for me, it helps to take this avalanche of emotion and story and message, and it puts it into this beautiful like ice sculpture thing that you can
You are
mold and
so, oh
mend,
my
and
gosh, you're so, I
I
love it.
mean you
You
can
are
just
the
take
mass,
this
you are such a
thing.
crafter of words, Courtney. She talks about the avalanche, and an avalanche is made of what? Ice and snow, and it turns into an ice sculpture because you know how to form it. These are your words and these are the message. Have you used that metaphor before? Or did that just come?
Never,
You,
never.
Here's what I see with you, Courtney. Every time I see you on stage, whatever the event is, or on a Zoom or an interview, you just tap into creativity. There are so many speakers that they have a message, it's prepared, and if they say it one time or they say it 25 or 100 times, they say the exact same phrase at the very beginning, the end the exact same way. They say but with you, like you are such this student of words and descriptive phrases, and I take notes every time. Like I love that about you because you're this person who's always learning, right? Like you are there,
Always.
but you are still always learning and always growing, and you're such a great example, I feel,
Thank you.
for speakers of all levels.
All levels.
You know, it's just so cool. I love it, love it, love it. So I want to ask you a question, and I know
Yes.
you've had many experiences. I mean, and you've even been interviewed with some national publications, People Magazine. You've so many different things, and different places that you've been on stage, prestigious events, etc. I know there's many, but can you share with us one memorable moment on stage for you?
Sure. Sure. I would have to say in 2023, I was invited to be a keynote speaker at the Donor Remembrance Ceremony here in Las Vegas. And this is a yearly event, typically in February, where the all of the donor families, typically from the previous year, we all gather together. We are treated to a wonderful meal and resources and speakers that can relate to our journey of loss, and also those being donors and donor heroes. You know, we everyone in the room, and how I started that conversation was, everyone in the room paid an extremely costly amount for a ticket into the room, that
Um,
being a loved one, that was
wow.
our ticket into the room. And um, going on with my journey and speaking about Michael and that transformation of finding, you know, that place in yourself where, you know, as devastating and hard as it is to continue to breathe, uh, there is so much life out there. And if you can't do it for you, do it for your loved one, do it for others that are needing exactly and only what you have to share could save their life. And I just went on and on and on and got off the stage, and I had a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I would say about 6, 8 months later, I ended up back at Nevada Donor Network doing a different speaking engagement, and quickly learned of a young woman who was in the audience that day, who was looking for employment now and was actually hired on at Nevada Donor Network. And when she did come in for that interview and conversation with them, she shared with them that she barely made it to the donor ceremony, having lost her husband a year prior.
Hmm.
She was in a very deep depression. She had lost furry friends and her husband and another family member, all within 8 months or so of each other. And she was, in her words, a shell of a human, not working, not participating in life, because what even was the reason why even why. And something I said on the stage about loss and transformation, and having lost my son and choosing to do something with it, and continuing to grow through it, something just resonated with her, and she immediately began looking for employment, and that was a home that she found, that she would like to work at Nevada Donor Network. And she, to this day, I actually ran into her at the recent donor remembrance ceremony that we just completed for 2024, and she was thriving. She
Oh
had
my gosh.
employment. She's surrounded by her family, and she, in her words, you know, owed that purpose and passion and that ability to want to live again, because of something that I said and something I shared. And speaker aside, just being a human
Hmm.
and having
Yeah.
somebody know you and share with you something so vulnerable, and learning of an impact that you had, your son, your story, what it had on another human to want to live again. what
Uh, that's so beautiful.
what greater confirmation
Yeah.
is there that you're on the path than that? So I would have to say that that was just that I will never ever ever forget.
That's amazing. And that's one that told you. And for speakers, we know that
Right.
when we show up and we share our message and we are in tune and in alignment, there's so many that will be impacted that we never know. You'll never know, Courtney, all the people that your words, whether on stage or in the books, um, are impacting people around the world, I would say. I would like to ask you, and you know this, we've done this a few times because we do this at our events. I'm a big believer in affirmations and the power of I am. So I'd like for you in closing to share your short I am statement, if it's something that you use as a daily mantra or something that just you feel in the moment right now. So it's I am, fill in the
Mm-hmm.
blank, I am blank, 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 whatever that may be. And then follow it by, and my gift to the world is. So I am blank, blank,
I am a heart-centered servant.
and my gift to the
That
world
is my
is.
I am, and my gift to the world is my love and my passion for making this world a better place, one person at a time.
You're so awesome. Friends,
Thank
go
you.
to Amazon and get your copy of Transplant Hope, Inspiring Stories of Donor Heroes and Gifted Lives. And I invite you to also, so Courtney has a free gift for you, Hope Habits. You can check on this page where you click to see us, and you can receive your free gift from Courtney. I also want to invite you to go to transplanthope.com, where you can connect with Courtney. You can
Yes,
see more
please.
about her journey, and you can also invite her, book her to come and speak at your organization, your company, your association, to bring messages of hope and transformation to you and your people. My
Yes.
friends, I'm so excited that we have this time together with Courtney. Courtney, your final word.
Please, 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 uh, take take a moment and recognize that your journey matters and all of the experiences that you've had matters. Because there is at least one other person, and you don't even know who they are, that need only what you have to give, and not sharing that is a huge disservice to not only you but to the world. So take a moment and recognize the power that you have within you to not only transform your life but help others to find a way to transform theirs.
I love it. Friends, this has been our Message to Mission Summit, where we help you unleash your voice, connect with confidence, and captivate your audience with energy and emotion. That's exactly what Courtney Kaplan does. This is about transforming your heartfelt message into an impactful mission. Until next time, it's Christoph J. Wyman from Las Vegas, and my guest has been.
Courtney Kaplan.
Talk to you all soon, my friends. Cheers. Remember, your message matters, and somebody is waiting for you to show up. Cheers, and God bless.